Welcome in, Frostburg State fans, to our first recap of the year, and it's our fall season. I'm here with Colin Kirkwood, here to talk about some of our fall sports and some of the successes and seasons that they had. Colin, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're already wrapped up here in the fall season. Boy, did it go quickly. It feels like we just started in August not that long ago, but here we are.
Yeah, basketball kind of snuck up on all of us, to be sure. We'll start off with women's soccer, who had about the best season that, in program history, you could argue, making the school's first ever Division II NCAA tournament, 18-2-2 on the year. Now, I have to say that they didn't get any of the hardware they wanted, losing in the conference championship game, bounced in the first round of the NCAA tournament, but it was just a fun ride the entire year to watch that team play.
Yeah, you still, accomplished a lot as a program in that season, making the first ever Division II bid for a tournament in the history of the school. So, that's definitely something that you can chalk off there and be very proud of.
Yeah, no, Defender of the Year in Abby Dennis, Coach of the Year in Brian Parker, who also got 250 wins. So, one team that we were very excited to see all season. On the men's side for soccer, not the season that they were wanting this entire year, missed out by a tiebreaker in the playoffs, but you saw some of the pieces there that if they can bring, some players back next year, then maybe get a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, they worked it out here. We saw goals scored a couple of times in a bunch of those games, just couldn't quite find that one to put them ahead necessarily here, but you could still see there was a lot of fight on that roster, and they did pretty well to put forth their best foot in a lot of those games.
One of the teams that surprised, I think, everyone was field hockey, getting up to 8 wins, had only had 4 or 5 wins combined the last 2 seasons as a whole, and came out of the gates firing, won their opening 2 home games, beat Millersville, who ended up in the PSAC championship and was a top 5 team in the season, and just a great team that was competitive this year, where last year had a lot of games where, they were laughers or, got blown out. But this year, even against some of the top teams like Shippensburg and Westchester, there was a competitiveness and hanging in there with some of the big boys.
Yeah, if you really think about it, that Millersville game, to be exact there, that is a huge win for this program since jumping up to D2 and just playing competitive with a lot of those other bigger programs. As we all know, this region full of some really fantastic field hockey teams. Just being able to get even closer to being on par with them, it definitely spells good things in the future.
Yeah, and especially speaking that the team doesn't even have a conference right now and trying to figure that out as well, just playing as an independent and showing some teams up as it is. Get into the individual sport of cross country now, and a couple teams that for the first time in program history, similar to women's soccer, were able to compete in the NCAA Atlantic Regionals. Not quite the season maybe that they were expecting at the conference championships, but simply being able to have the experiences that they did and have a couple runners of Justice Lee Provost on the men's side specifically come up and finish top 40 in the regional meet. Certainly one to be excited about.
Yeah, they're definitely growing. And I've seen a lot more members of the team really working through here and just helping to make this a bigger thing and push it more on campus here and get more people interested and involved. So you can definitely see the growth coming for both of those programs.
Head coach Shane Brookshire really getting the women's team, especially who didn't even have a team to field 3 years ago, getting them into this position and finishing without the team's top runner even at the regional. So very excited for them for the next couple of years. Volleyball, another team that might have surprised some people, got up to 16 wins this year, have a steady progress after going winless a couple years ago, just missing out on the MEC tournament, but we see the pieces there. Bev Braun was top 10 in the country in kills for a lot of the season. Haley Delore got another year, her as a setter, and Fiona Gonzalez Medina in at libero. Some key pieces to look forward to next year, trying to get back to that conference tournament.
Yeah, and you think about it here, the most wins since getting up to Division II, that's definitely a great thing that you can hang your hat on going forward in the future here. And just like you said, it's a tough North Division in the MEC for volleyball, so it's never going to be an easy game at all when you go out there to play that way, but still a lot of progress being made there.
Yeah, I think the conference as a whole sent 4 or 5 teams into the regional championships for the NCAA. And we'll wrap up with football, who a disappointed season by their own standards of how high they were, considering last year sharing the conference title. But you look at it, and it's 3 losses on the year by a combined 6 points, and a couple of those were 1-point losses as well. But you look at the end product, and from where we thought this team was in the early parts of the year, where do we have enough? What are we going to look like? 3 losses, 8-3 is a pretty good record considering what was lost last year and some of the toughness that kind of came in with these games this year.
Yeah, you hate to play that what-if game with how those 3 losses could have went, just like by you said, that combined point total. You really hate to sit here and be like, well, what if this, and this? But still, that's definitely a solid season. Beating Notre Dame at home in that double overtime thriller, that was fantastic on homecoming, and I know that was a huge memory for a lot of those guys. So they're putting a lot of things together, and they're building, and next year I think is going to be even better.
Well, Colin, was certainly an exciting fall season to speak about. Thank you for joining me today to come and talk. And we're very excited for these fall sport teams next year, but now it's on to the winter sports and the basketballs and the swimmings for right now.
Yeah, time to get ready for the winter season then. Just like that, we'll be wrapping up the winter and getting ready for some of those early winter, early spring sports like acro coming up here as well, looking to build on their season coming up here. So a lot of stuff coming down the pipe here.
But thank you for tuning in, and as always, go Bobcats.